Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the first step in the lawsuit involving the Signal chat scandal. Point one, this invariably would have provoked all kinds of oversight within the government, as indeed it should. There should be really serious hearings within Congress. There should be inspectors general, and there definitely should be a criminal investigation. I'm very confident that in any other FBI there would be, but the combo of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, the indications are it won't happen. And that's who we have. You know, they, even as ironically, you could say infuriatingly, they keep talking about the other guys having corrupted justice for political reasons. There's not a single case they've pointed to that would show it. And here, this is what clearly would be in any administration, anyone else, you would do a criminal violation. And that's because the Espionage Act, the same statute that Trump was charged under in the Mar-a-Lago case, but the neighboring provision, 793F, says if you are really terribly negligent and communications get out, as they did here, to the editor of The Atlantic, right, Jeff Goldberg. That's a crime in and of itself. So when Pam Bondi stands up and says, we want to look to the future, nobody would ever take a breach like this. And, you know, what Malcolm Nance in our Substack Live yesterday called the worst security breach in U.S. history. No one would ever say, oh, you know, that's a mulligan. Let's just look forward. And her other is, it was inadvertent. And the answer to that is, well, yes and no. And the no doesn't, you know, the yes part doesn't even matter. He certainly knew what he was doing with the Signal chat, and indications are that they've been doing it for a while. And that's something we want to get to the bottom of, because among other things, there may be other communications that are vulnerable. There may also be messages that have not been preserved contrary to law. That's what this one lawsuit. Nobody's doing it within government as they should. One party has stepped in, an oversight group that says Signal is able to erase the messages. The Presidential Record Act says you got to keep the messages, and they've come in and said, you know, let them know, Judge, that that's a violation, and order them to preserve all the messages. Okay, point three. The judge assigned randomly to that case to Trump's fury is James Boasberg, Judge Boasberg, the same person who's doing the Alien Enemies Act. A totally solid judge, not a, a judge is a judge, but not a lean, strongly left or anything like that. Respected on both sides of the aisle. And he did what I think you could have expected him to do, order the government temporarily, while they're figuring this all out, but temporarily to preserve all the records. And he actually gave a span, March 11th through March 15th, that covers a fair bit more than the actual controversial statements that Hepseth and others communicated over the Signal chat. The lawyers came in for the oversight group and said, we have evidence that at least one of these guys, and it's probably more, have adjusted their Signal chat so that the messages disappear. And two, some of the messages already have disappeared. And that's enough for Boasberg to come in and say, whoa, hold everything. I want to be able to determine this, and I don't want to determine it at a time, you know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. What happened in the AEA case, he issued an order and oops, they'd already violated it. He doesn't want that to happen here, so he's saying, freeze those messages now, and we will methodically be able to decide whether or not you have to, you know, keep them permanent in order to comply with the Presidential Records Act. The lawsuit is actually, a little asterisk here, Presidential Records Act through the Administrative Procedures Act, because private people aren't allowed to directly enforce the PRA, but they can through the APA. And so when you hear about an organization and an immediate challenge, you think, is there standing? But at least this kind of lawsuit has been brought before, when the responsible officials in government, including the archivist, hasn't taken action to preserve things. And so the law pretty much accords standing to a group like this American Oversight Group. And I expect they will have standing, but that'll be one of the fights. And the government will say everything it will, including that it is unconstitutional to force them to retain. It's just another congressional demand that they can ignore. But the main point is and it must be terribly galling to Trump, is Judge Boasberg again has ordered them, don't destroy any of these records. They have to be retained under law. I want to see if they're retained under law. I want to see if your use of Signal chat violated the law. Let me just say as an aside, maybe it's done largely because Hethbeth, is really used to, just like Signal, but there's real reason to believe that what's going on here is they want them not to be preserved. They want the public not to have access to records. And that's exactly what the Presidential Records Act says that they cannot do. So, it's a real test of the legal bite of at least this Presidential Records Act. And that's what Boasberg will be determining. Of course, they'll try everything they can to yank it from them, bring it on appeal, bring it to the Supreme Court. But that's what's going on here. I just want to close by saying it's like 1/25 of what should be going on here. This is simply to say, keep the records. Hopefully they will prevail. It's certainly what the law provides. But no criminal investigation within the department. Completely stunning. Talk to anyone who's ever been there. Without a doubt, that they would be immediately investigated. No deep investigation from the Senate and Congress. And by the way, something squirrely going on here, right? Both Trump and his press secretary and the Secretary of Defense are saying, oh, well, there was nothing classified there. And there's just no such thing as unclassified information about a soon to take place military operation. There's no such thing. It's the highest classified thing there is. Think about it for a second. It would be the crown jewel. An enemy gets a hold of it and they slaughter the people who are coming in the military operation. And as Malcolm Nance talked to me about in our live Substack, even though they escaped that terrible catastrophe, still the kind of information this is going to have been very valuable to Russia, China, as well as the Houthis, etc. So, bad violation. And when they say nothing classified was, they must be either lying through their teeth, or I would say more likely resting on some legalism that we don't know, about yet. Say a magic wave of the wand to make things unclassified or whatever, but they really are completely beside the point. Indeed, would, if anything, show that they're trying to elude their legal obligations. So a good thing that if records are preserved, a good thing if we find out how widespread the use of Signal is within this extremely high level group, right? You got not just defense, but the Vice President of the United States, Stephen Miller, really almost everybody up to the president, be very good. But if that's all that happens, and right now there's no indication that more will happen, that's a real show that we have a corrupt government that is doing favors in situations where they're not supposed to, where they're supposed to do justice without fear and without favor. And very much, in an area of military security, in circumstances that could make the world and this country less safe for us. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.